सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यं करवावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अखण्डं सच्चिदानन्दम् अवाङ्मनसगोचरम् आत्मानमखिलाधारम् आश्रयेभीष्टसिद्धये अर्थतोऽप्यद्वयानन्दान् अतीतद्वैतभानतः गुरूणाराध्य वेदान्त सारं वक्ष्ये यथामति। Current, can you give summary?
So in this second chapter, we are seeing the Adhyaropa stage where the discussion about Ajnanam is going on, and after discussing about Vyashti and Samashti Ajnanam, the author is talking about, has talked about the oneness of the Ajnanam, and now he is also talking about the oneness of the Upahita of both the Ajnanams. So in the 48th Khanda, Etad Upahitayoho Ishvara Prajnayoho api Vanavrukshavachinakashayoho iva Jalashaya Jalagata Pratibimbakashayoho iva va abhedaha. There is non-difference between this Upahita of the Upadhi. The Upadhi is the Vyashti and Samashti Upadhi. Vyashti Ajnanam, Samashti Ajnanam, which are called Ishvara and Prajna. And here the Api indicates that the Upadhi, the non-difference between Vyashti Ajnanam and Samashti Ajnanam, is taken as an example. And for that, the author also gives two other examples. Like the space which is conditioned by the vana and that which is conditioned by the tree. There is non-difference, and also like the non-difference of the space which is reflected in the Jalashaya, the water body, and the Jala, the individual water such as waves, etc. And for this, the Shruti is quoted, Eshaha Sarveshwaraha. Here, this is the 6th mantra, and in the 5th mantra, the Prajna was described. So, Eshaha refers to Prajnaha. Prajnaha Sarveshwaraha. Prajnaha is Ishvaraha. So, based on this Shruti, this non-difference between the Upahita is described. Then, in the next Khanda, the author talks about Turiya. And it is said that Vanavruksha tadavacchinnakashayoho Jalashaya jalatadgata pratibimbakashayoho va adharabhutanu upahitakashavat anayoho ajnanatada upahita chaitanyayoho adharabhutam yad anupahitam chaitanyam tat Turiyam iti uchyate. So that is called Turiyam. What? The Chaitanyam. What kind of Chaitanyam? Anupahitam, unconditioned Chaitanya. What is that? Which is Adhara Bhutam, which is the basis. For what? For the Ajnana and the Upahita of that Ajnana. For the Chaitanya, which is the Upahita of that Ajnana. So, by being the Adhishthanam of Ajnana, and by being the basis of the Chaitanya, which is conditioned, unconditioned consciousness is Adhara Bhutam, and that is called Turiya. Like
Tadupahita Chaitanya refers to whom?
Conditioned consciousness, and that is Prajna and Ishvara.
Correct.
That are the two things. And like what? The first example is like the space which is conditioned. Like the space which is conditioned.
Unconditioned space. You can say.
Conditioned space of Vana and Vriksha, and also the Vana and Vriksha. So here, the two, in each example, two parts are told. The space, the unconditioned space, is the basis for the forest and the tree, based on the Shruti that Akasha is from Akasha Vayu came, and then finally Prithvi, and the Vana and Vriksha are the effects of Prithvi. And also it is told that that same unconditioned space is the basis for the conditioned space conditioned by Vana and Vriksha.
Correct.
And another example is Jalashaya Jalatada Gata Pratibimba Kashayoho. So the unconditioned space, which is the basis for the reflected conditioned space, or the conditioned space which is reflected in Jalashaya and Jala, and also the unconditioned space is the basis for Jalashaya and Jala. So in this manner, Chaitanya which is unconditioned is called Turiyam. And what is the Shruti? Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturtham Manyante. That is Chaturtham. Chaturtham here refers to Turiyam, because the word Turiya directly has the meaning of the fourth one. And fourth one considering the Vishwa, Taijasa and Pragya which were described earlier. But really it is not the fourth one. It is just from a particular standpoint it is called the fourth one.
What is the particular standpoint?
Particular standpoint is that when the consciousness is seen from the angle of the unconditioned consciousness is seen from the angle of Jagrat Avastha, it is called Vishwa. When seen from the angle of Swapna Avastha, it is called Taijasa, and from the angle of Shushupti Avastha, it is called Pragya. Just like the same actor is playing three different roles. So from that angle, the actor himself is given the number fourth, but really he is not fourth. He is in and through all the roles. Unconditioned consciousness is in and through all the three, but it is not limited by any of the three. Therefore, it is called the fourth one.
Correct.
Yes,
So the development so far is the definition of Adhyaropa was given. Vastuni avastva rupaha adhyaropaha. Vastu was defined, specified as Advayam Brahma, Satchidananda Advayam Brahma. Avastu was defined as Ajnanadi Sakala Jada Samuhaha. Means the entire material world, beginning with Ajnanam. Here, Ajnanam became material because it is the fundamental matter. Therefore, it is material. So, Ajnanadi Sakala Jada Samuhaha is Avastu. Then, beginning of Ajnana, there is a beginning of the Ajnanadi explanation. And in Ajnanadi, Adipadena Sukshma Prapancha, Sthula Prapancha is there. But first Ajnanam, so Ajnanam was defined. Ajnanam was defined in general, then divided into two, Samashti and Vyashti. Samashti being the Upadhi of Ishvara, Vyashti being the Upadhi of Jiva, and thereby Samashti is Shuddha Sattva Pradhana, Vyashti is Malina Sattva Pradhana. And based on this Upadhi, what is the title attained by Chaitanyam, that also was talked about. We have Samashti level and then Vyashti level. And then oneness between the fundamental oneness between the Vyashti and Samashti was talked about, and thereby the oneness between the Upahita also was talked about. Vyashti Upahita Chaitanya, Samashti Upahita Chaitanyam, they also have oneness because Vyashti Upadhi, Samashti Upadhi have got oneness. And then consciousness, Turiya Chaitanyam, which is free from the Vyashti Samashti Upadhi, was talked about. So what is Turiya Chaitanyam? That was told because it is presented in Shastra. So context has come and therefore he talked about that Turiya Chaitanyam, which is basis for Upadhi, which is the Adhishthanam of Upadhi and basis for Upahita. That was talked about, Turiyam. So Turiyam Chaitanyam is immanent and transcendental both. Means immanent in the sense it is in and through Vishva, Tejas and Prajna, therefore immanent. And it is transcendental because it is not limited by any one of these three. And Chaitanyam does not have the status of being any one of these three. Chaitanyam does not have Vishvatvam, Tejastvam and Prajnatvam or Vaishvanaratvam, Hiranyagarbhatvam, Ishvaratvam. It is free from the status of being any one of these three. Therefore it is transcendental. At the same time it is present in all three of them. Therefore immanent. That immanent transcendental consciousness is called Turiyam. And this is based on the Mandukya Upanishad description. Now, main subject matter of Vedanta is Mahavakyarthaha. We had seen Vishayaha, Jiva Brahmaikyam, Shuddha Chaitanyam, Prameyam. So, main subject matter should not be forgotten. And therefore, when the context has come to bring in that main subject matter, he tells Idameva Turiyam Shuddha Chaitanyam Ajnanadi Tadupahita Chaitanyabhyam Taptaya Pindavat Aviviktam Sat Mahavakyasya Vachyam Viviktam Sat Laksham iti cha uchyate. Idameva Turiyam Shuddha Chaitanyam. This Turiya alone, which is pure consciousness, is Vachyartha of Mahavakya. Immediate meaning, Vachyartha means immediate meaning of Mahavakya and implied meaning of Mahavakya. This Turiya itself, which is pure consciousness, is Mahavakyasya Vachyam. It is the Vachya, the immediate meaning of Mahavakya, and Lakshyartham, implied meaning of Mahavakya. This is the main sentence. Pure consciousness alone is Vachyartha and Lakshyartha of Mahavakya. Alright. Now, what do we mean by Shuddha Chaitanyam? Shuddha Chaitanyam is pure consciousness. What do we mean by pure consciousness? Unconditioned consciousness. Consciousness which is unassociated with the Upadhi, Jagra Swapna Shushupti Upadhi, or this Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharira Upadhi. Upadhi Rahita, Anupahita Chaitanyam is called here Shuddha Chaitanyam. So pure consciousness. And this pure consciousness becomes the Vachyartha of Mahavakya. What is the Mahavakya? Tat Tvam Asi. And Tattvamasi is saying what? That Ishvara, you, Jiva are. This is the Vachyartha. where Samashti Ajnana Upahita Chaitanyam is equated to Vyashti Ajnana Upahita Chaitanyam. So, oneness between the Upahita Chaitanyam is the Vachyartha of Mahavakya. So, Mahavakya, immediately speaking, talk about Upahita Chaitanya. Mahavakya immediately referring to oneness of Upahita Chaitanya, associated consciousness. And that is what is said here, the Shuddha Chaitanyam, Aviviktam Sat, that pure consciousness. Sat means being, Aviviktam, undiscriminated, not separated from what? Ajnanadi. Ajnanadi should be understood as Upadhi. Ajnanadi Upadhi. Ajnanadi Adipadena Sukshma Prapancha or Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Prapancha, Sthula Sharira. So when pure consciousness not separated, not discriminated from Ajnanadi Upadhi and Tadupahita Chaitanyam, and not separated from Vishva Tejasa Prajna, then this consciousness becomes Mahavakyasya Vachyam. Vachyam is immediate meaning. And what is the immediate meaning? Popular meaning, literal meaning, which strikes immediately. When you hear something, what comes to your mind immediately, that is Vachyartha. Like we say, the pillar of this building is very strong. So you understand the meaning of pillar, a particular structural member. And therefore this meaning is so much ingrained in our mind that even when you hear this person is the pillar of the organization, first what comes to your mind is a structural member only. So structural member, a particular type of structural member, is the popular meaning of the word pillar. And that comes to your mind. And that popular meaning is called Vachyartha. And Lakshyartha is what? Implied meaning. Like in this example, pillar is a strong support for the organization. That is the implied meaning. Devadatta is a pillar of organization, which Devadatta is a strong supporting member of the organization. Similarly, Mahavakya immediately referring to Upahita only. Tat refers to Upahita, Tvam also refers to Upahita. So, apparently, it talks about the oneness of Upahita. And therefore, it is said here that consciousness mixed with, not separated from the Upadhi and Upahita is the Vachyartha. In Vedanta Sara, this is a speciality. Generally we say Upadhi, Upadehe Aviviktam, not separated from the Upadhi. That is a common way of saying. But here he wants to bring that dimension of Upahita also. Upahita and Anupahita, both of them are not separated. A person is not able to see that I am fat, I am dukhi, is not my real introduction. It is my Upahita form. My Upahita form or Upahita, Upadhi based expression, the expression of the entity associated with Upadhi, that Upahita expression and Anupahita are not separated. Therefore I say I am Dukhi. So based on such experience, Acharya is adding one word, Tadupahita Chaitanyabhyam Aviviktam. And why Chaitanyabhyam Ajnanadi Tadupahita? Because two, Ajnanadi and Tadupahita Chaitanya. And also we can take Tadupahita Ajnana and Tadupahita Jato Vekvachanam. Tadupahita Chaitanyam refers to both Ishvara and Prajna. So Ajnanadi will refer to the Vyashti Ajnanam and Samashti Ajnanadi. And Tadupahita Chaitanyam will refer to Vyashti Ajnanopahita, Samashti Ajnanopahita. From this two, Upadhi and Upahita, when consciousness is not separated, then it becomes Vachyam. And when Vachyartha we take, there will be contradiction. Because it will be said that Ishvara is Jivaha. There will be contradiction. And when Viviktam is separated, when pure consciousness is separated from Upadhi and Upahita, then Viviktam Sat means being separated, Lakshyam iti uchyate. Same pure consciousness, when separated from Upadhi and Upahita, then it is called Lakshyartha of Mahavakya. If you remember, Vishayaha kaha Jiva Brahma Ekyam Shuddha Chaitanyam. Shuddha Chaitanyam is Lakshyartha of Mahavakya. That is why one meaning of Mahavakya we give what? Akhandartha Bodhakaha. Akhandartha means the indivisible reality which is consciousness, Shuddha Chaitanyam. That is the meaning of Mahavakya. Means Mahavakya says that you are the only indivisible consciousness. There is no duality in you. There is no division in you. What type of division? Jiva, Ishvara. That type of division is not there. Therefore, Shuddha Chaitanyam is the Lakshyartha of Mahavakya. Generally, we present this concept in terms of the Tatpada Vachyartha, Tatpada Lakshyartha, Tvampada Vachyartha, Tvampada Lakshyartha. That is how Tattva Bodha is presented. But here we are presenting in terms of Mahavakya Vachyartha, Mahavakya Lakshyartha. And Mahavakya Vachyartha, Mahavakya Lakshyartha is similar to the Tvampada Tatpada Vachyartha Lakshyartha. Alright. So, when pure consciousness is separated from the Upadhi and Upahita expression, then it becomes Lakshyartha. What becomes Lakshyartha? Turiyam Shuddha Chaitanyam. So Mahavakya's Lakshyartha is what? You are pure consciousness in which there is no Jiveshwara Bhedaha. So that is the meaning of Mahavakya, the Lakshyartha, implied meaning of Mahavakya. Therefore the Shuddha Chaitanyam is called Lakshyam. And here one word used is Viviktam. Viviktam is discriminated, separated. But this separation is not physical separation. It is not that we have to separate this tape recorder from this table, or some pebbles are to be separated from the wheat or rice. Like that, physical separation is not there. It is a cognitive separation. And some people say, what is the use of cognitive separation? We should really separate ourselves from the body. Therefore they talk about out of the body experience, astral traveling. You have seen, have you heard the book? No? That's, You have seen astral traveling book? Huh? You have seen? Astral traveling. I also read this.
Brazil there is a lot of this.
Yes. So astral traveling means, and they give the technique. that how to do that. And I will just tell you a small easy technique they give. One easy technique I remember. He said, night you should not drink water. For so many hours before you sleep, you should not drink water. And keep one water vessel in the corner of your bedroom. And so what will happen? You will come out and go to the water vessel. So that's how. This is starting point. I remember only starting point. After and they have that book has become so popular. I think Buddhist monk had written. So popular. We are not talking about that type of physical separation of so-called Atma from the body. If at all that is possible, it is the separation of Sukshma Sharira from the body. Atma is not separated. And so we are not talking about the physical separation of Atma from the body when we talk about Shariratma Viveka, Dehatma Viveka. When we talk about, we are not talking about physical separation. We are talking about something like separation of space from the pot. Appreciate space to be different from pot. Now there you cannot physically separate. You cannot say the pot I will leave it in a space, I will take out. Air perhaps you can take out. Vacuum you can make it. But space how will you take out? But still you can do Viveka. Cognitive Viveka, yes. The space is inside the pot, but it is not limited by the pot. Space is pervading the pot, but the space does not have potness in it. Why? Because space is available even in the house. Space is available in other objects also. If space is having the confinement to the pot, then it will not be anything else. So space does not have potness. Space is available but not confined to this pot. So you can do cognitive viveka. And by doing that you have not done separation. Physical separation you have not done. Neither it is possible nor it is required. Or you do viveka of this pot. Today only pot disappeared.
What is in that TTN?
Acha. No, yesterday you had kept. Guru. I was thinking. Correct. Okay. So we'll bring one pot. Or you can clip. This clip. The plastic is separate from this clip. For that we don't have to physically separate. Without physically separating the clip, plastic from the clip, we can do viveka. That plastic is obtaining in the clip or manifesting as the clip, but not limited by the clipness. Clipness is not intrinsic to this plastic. This we can appreciate. Similarly here, the viveka which is talked about is not physical viveka, it is cognitive separation. And people will say, just cognitive? No. Just cognitive separation? Yes. Why? Because the confusion is cognitive. Since confusion is cognitive, separation is cognitive. Yes, this cognitive confusion has got problem at the emotional level as well. No doubt about that. That is true. But problem is cognitive. And where the problem is, there alone solution should be. This problem is in the intellect, therefore solution should be in the intellect. And therefore, the viviktam is cognitively separated. So when consciousness is cognitively separated from upadhi and its upahita rupam, then that pure consciousness, unconditioned consciousness is called lakshyartha, the implied meaning of Mahavakya. And for that he gives the example. How separate? Taptaya pindavat aviviktam sat mahavakyasya vachyam, and similarly vakyasya vachyam and viviktam sat lakshyam. Taptaya pindavat. Ayah pinda means iron ball. Tapta means hot. Like a hot iron ball. So what has happened? There is an iron ball which has got roundness, particular shape, and it is heated up and it has become red hot iron ball. So we use this expression, what? Red hot iron ball. See, fire, or in fact sometimes they use the word red fireball, not only iron, the red hot iron ball, red fireball. So when we use the word fireball, what has happened? Fire and ball are mixed up in our understanding. Fire does not have ballness and ball does not have fireness. But because of this aviveka, we have a virtual entity, conceptual entity called fireball. So the fire which is avivikta, not cognitively separated, then it will be called fireball. And when you separate cognitively, then there is no fire, there is no entity called fireball. What is there is only ball and fire. So here Drishtanta is this much only. Just as fire and ball are non-separate, are mixed up, and we use the expression fireball, similarly when consciousness and upadhi are aviviktam, when they are not separated, just as fire and iron are not separated when we are using the expression fireball, similarly consciousness and upadhi and upahita are not separated, then it becomes the vachyartha of Mahavakya. And in Lakshyartha, this example can be somewhat taken when the fireball, Lakshyartha will be fire. Suppose we say, fireball burnt me. There is a sentence. So fireball Vachyartha will be the ball which is having fire or ball which is fiery. But the Lakshyartha of fireball burnt me will be what? Fire only. Fire which is separated from this ball, that fire will be Lakshyartha of fireball burnt me. Fireball Vachyartha is what? Fire which is mixed up with ball. And Lakshyartha is what? Fire which is separated from the ball. Lakshyamiti uchyate. So, there can be cognitive mix-up like fireball, and it can be resolved cognitively, and we understand the entity as it is. So similarly, I am consciousness. Because of ignorance, there is aviveka, and because of aviveka, there is anyonya dhyasa, and therefore I am considering myself to be an individual. This sense of individuality is the product of adhyasa. When limitless consciousness is identified with the limited upadhi, then a limited conscious being is as though born. And that is the sense of individuality. And then there is the sense of individuality. But this individual, which is a combination of upadhi and chaitanyam, when it is separated, then I appreciate myself to be consciousness which is free from limitation, and this limitless consciousness is the Lakshyartha of Mahavakya. I, consciousness, unassociated with upadhi and upahita form, am Lakshyartha of Tattvamasi Mahavakya. I am limitless, divisionless consciousness. This is the meaning of this Mahavakya. So pure consciousness is the meaning of Mahavakya. That is here said, and this is the subject matter of this Vedanta Sara and Vedanta. And this Vakyartha, Lakshyartha, etc., this idea will be elaborately discussed later on. So many technical points are brought in. Here, with Mahavakya and this Vachyartha, Lakshyartha related, so many points are there. So Samsarga, Vishishta, all this comes. Okay. Now, we are entering into the next topic, which is Karyam of Ajnanam. Because Ajnanadi was there, no? So Adi means etc. And etc. refers to Ajnana Karyam. And Ajnana Karyam, the Sukshma Prapancha, Sthula Prapancha, how is it possible? How this consciousness can become the cause of everything? Because any cause, to become a cause, has to undergo a change. And consciousness does not have any change in it. No possibility of change. And how it happens? How the whole creation happens? It should not happen. Because only reality is consciousness. And consciousness is changeless. And any creation presupposes the change in the cause. And consciousness cannot change, therefore it cannot become the cause. Still creation is there. How is it possible? For that, the topic of Ajnanam having twofold power is introduced as an introduction to the topic of creation. So here Tikakara says, Idanim Tatkaryadhyaropam Kramena Nirupayishyan Tadupayogittvena Ajnanagata Samarthyam Tavat Nirupayati. So far, Evam Avasthabhimani Sahitam Ajnanam Savibhagam Nirupya Saprapancham Nirupya. So far, Ajnanam Nirupya, having presented, describe Ajnanam. How? Avastha, what is the Avastha of Ajnanam and what is the Abhimani of Ajnanam and what is the title of that Abhimani. All those detail Nirupya, having elaborately presented the Ajnanam along with its state and the Upahita, its status. Now, Idanim Tatkarya Adhyaropa Kramena. Tatkarya Adhyaropam Kramena. Now the superimposition of the effect of Ajnanam, Nirupayishyan, desiring to present or going to present Kramena in order. From Ajnanam there will be Sukshma Prapancha and then Sthula Prapancha. In this manner, this Ajnana Karyam, the author is going to present. And therefore here, Tadupayogittvena, as something necessary for the presentation of creation, Tadupayogittvena means Tat Karya Adhyaropa Nirupanopayogittvena. So, the next topic, the immediate next topic is necessary, is useful to elaborate the topic of creation. So, as something useful to the topic of creation, Ajnanagata Samarthyam, the power of Ajnanam, Nirupayati, he presents. Okay, in simple words, what we can say is, Ajnanam is the cause for everything. Ajnanam alone is going to manifest as Sukshma Prapancha, Sthula Prapancha. And how can it manifest as Sukshma and Sthula Prapancha? And Ajnanam by itself cannot do anything. Ajnanam has to have the background of this Satchit Brahma. So how it is possible for Ajnanam to project the entire Sukshma and Sthula Prapancha on Brahman? Because Ajnanam requires some background, and background is Brahman. So Ajnanam has to project Sukshma and Sthula Prapancha on Brahman. For that to happen, Ajnanam should have some power. And what is that power? That is going to be the topic from the next sentence, next paragraph. Asya ajnanasya avarana vikshepanāmakam asti shaktidvayam asya ajnanasya. For this ajnanam, or of this ajnanam, shaktidvayam asti. Twofold power is there. Asti means there. Shaktidvayam, twofold power is there. And what is this twofold power? Avarana vikshepanāmakam. Having the name Avarana, veiling, vikshepa, projection, superimposition. So Ajnanam has got twofold power, Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti. So these are the twofold power, veiling power and projecting power. Then only movie can happen. So movie, when they start movie, first they make everything dark, all lights switch off. Avaranam has to happen. Otherwise you will be seeing people and all. So that is not that. So you are subject to the veiling power, Avarana Shakti, and then Vikshepa Shakti will work. When Avarana Shakti has worked, then only Vikshepa Shakti will work. So first a person is to be hypnotized. Hypnotized means what? He should be made unaware of the surrounding, and then only we can make him do other things. So therefore relax, that's how they do in hypnotism. So that's what. So first veiling and then projecting. You are doing this, you are doing this, you are the king. You can go and hit that fellow. Fellow will do it. So first he is made unaware of his empirical reality. Everywhere it is there. So first you are made unaware and then you are believed. You are made to believe something. That's what, even big groups, that fanatic groups, that's what happens. They give a talk in a very loud voice. So you are not allowed to think much. And then when you are hypnotized, means you have lost the sense of reality, then they give some ideas, will work. You are under the influence. So some people have that power. The way they create, they cast a spell, they call it. They talk in such a manner, you are impressed. And then they will cheat. That's what they do. So everywhere it is there. Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti. That's what happens. So here Ajnanam also has this. And now Avarana Shakti will be explained. Avarana Shakti tavat Alpaha api megha Aneka yojanayatam Aditya mandalam Avalokayitru nayana patha pidhayakataya Yatha achadayati iva Tatha ajnanam Parichinnam api Atmanam aparichinnam Asamsarinam Avalokayitru buddhi pidhayakataya
अवलोकयितृ बुद्धिविदायकतया
आच्छादयति इव
आच्छादयति इव
तादृशं सामर्थ्यं तदुक्तं गनच्छन्न दृष्टिर्गनच्छन्नमर्कम् यथा मन्यते निष्प्रभं चातिमूढः तथा बद्धवद्भाति यो मूढदृष्टेः स नित्योपलब्धिस्वरूपोऽहमात्मा इति. So avarana shakti is defined. Avarana shakti tavat. Tavat means firstly avarana shakti, the power of veiling. And to explain this avarana shakti, the example is given. The example is of cloud covering the sun. We say the sun is today covered by the clouds. Really speaking, clouds are very, very limited. So limited clouds, very limited, very small clouds, how can they cover the sun, which is so huge, many times more than even the earth planet? So huge it is. And generally covering factor should be equal or bigger than the covered. So how this small cloud can cover the sun? For that answer is given here, that a cloud does not really cover the sun. A cloud covers the path of sight of the observer, and thereby this sun appears to be covered. So by covering the path of the sight of the observer who is trying to see the sun, the cloud becomes the covering factor. That is the example. Alpaha api megha. Cloud, even though it is very small, aneka yojanayatam aditya mandalam, the solar disk, aditya mandalam, solar disk, which is aneka yojana ayatam. Ayatam is spread. The solar disk which is spread aneka yojana, millions of miles. Yojana is one unit of measurement of distance. Yojana, I think it is how many? 6 miles. 6 miles is equal to 1 yojana, according to one version. And 1.6 mile is 1 kilometer. So many yojanas, 9.6 kilometer is 1 yojana, and this is millions of yojana, at least hundreds of thousands of yojana is this solar disk. We have to check what is the diameter of the sun. You know that? How much it is? Karan will be knowing. Alright. Anyway, it is there in the internet, you can see. So, the solar disk, which is ayatam, which is spread over so many miles. And the cloud is maybe maximum half a kilometer or even less than that. This cloud. So, how this cloud is achadayati. Cloud, even though small, yatha achadayati. Just as a cloud, even though small, it covers, veils. What? Aditya Mandalam, solar disk, which is spread over millions of or thousands of the miles. How does it do? That is explained. Avalokayitru nayana patha pidhayakataya. By being, on account of being, what? Pidhayaka, a cover, veiling factor, veiler. Of what? Patha. Patha means the path. Path of what? Nayana, eyes, sight. Of whom? Avalokayitru, the observer. Being a cover or an obstacle to the path of the sight of the observer, or path of the eyes or path of the sight of the observer. It just covers the sight, path of the sight of the observers. That is good enough. The path of the sight of the observer is covered. For that to use sig is not required. I do this much, then by these two hands the entire hall is covered now. The hands are smaller than the hall, but just the path of sight to see this hall is covered by these two hands. And then what? The entire hall is covered. So, Nayana Patha Pidhayaka Taya, being Hetvarthe, being the covering factor to the path of the sight of the observer, Megaha Achadayati. Karma of Achadayati is what? Aditya Mandalam. Karta is Megha. Cloud covers the solar disk by becoming the obstacle to the sight of the path of the sight of the observer. This is example. Means what? The veiling factor need not be as big as this veiled. From that example it is said. And how does it do? What is the way of operation? Nayana Patha Pidhayaka Taya. Similarly, Achaditi Iva, like as though Achadayati. Iva means as though. Really speaking, this cloud is not covering the Aditya Mandalam. As though Achadayati. As it were. Tatha, similarly, Ajnanam, ignorance, Parichinnam api, even though limited, Atmanam, Atma the self which is Aparichinnam, limitless, Asamsarinam, free from bondage. So free and limitless self, Avalokayitru Buddhi Pidhayaka Taya, being the veiler of covering factor for the intellect of the knower, Pramata. Achadayati Iva. So this Ajnanam is the Karta. Ajnanam as though covers what? The self, limitless, ever free self. This Ajnanam covers this limitless, ever free self. How? By veiling the buddhi of the knower. And Iva, as though, really it is not covering. Atma is not really covered. Because Ajnanam and Atma do not have same degree of reality. So it is not really covering, as though covering. Tadrisham samarthyam, kasya ajnanasya. Ajnanasya tadrisham samarthyam. Such, tadrisham is such power of ignorance is called Avarana Shakti. So Avarana Shakti of Ajnanam is the power of veiling the self as it were by covering, veiling the buddhi of the knower. Such power is called Avarana Shakti. More about this we will see in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.